What's your name? My name's Buddy.
Elf, huh?
Now I gotta fix the background a little bit. Yeah, you know what? Why not?
Because it sucks. All right, well, happy holidays, Keith.
Yes, welcome. This is a holiday episode, I guess.
It is. It'll probably come out in March, but we're shooting it before Christmas, and we're hoping you can watch it around Christmas.
Yes, that would be the goal. It's up to Everett. I have very little to do with these.
We're talking, of course, about the film Elf.
Buddy's experiencing a world he never knew existed.
But he's your son.
What am I gonna do?
He's certifiably insane.
An American
Will
classic.
Ferrell, you go for it because you're. This
Here we go.
This is gonna be a long night for some of you, and by some of you, I mean Keith and the entire audience, because not all of us share the same opinion here. Keith.
Yeah. All right. Shit, man. Elf. 2003. It's the 20-year reunion. We didn't plan it, but it is. It's 20 years.
We're just naturally
Crushing
in
it
tune
right
with
now.
this shit. We just did a Casablanca episode. It was like the whatever it was, 95 year. I don't know.
Of course,
it was
but we
something.
planned it.
It was trending, and I think it was because of us.
Yes, definitely. 20 years old, this film. I can't believe it. I saw this movie in theaters. Obviously very excited to see it when it came out. And I want to talk about really the thing I do want to the thing I want to dig into, but after I heap some praise on the film, we'll get there. Is my thought process going in and when I watched it and kind of how I view it now, because it has shifted. It has shifted, I should say.
Okay.
Or some questions have arose.
Good job. All right, Keith.
Thank you.
Using words right.
Yeah, words. That's the last time. I will continue to butcher the English language as we continue. But Will stars, obviously, Will Ferrell. I think it's a pretty good cast. Will Ferrell, James Caan, Mary Steenburgen?
Love her.
Yeah,
Love Mary.
She's great. She's a great comedic actress in general, but I think she's great in comedies. And Zooey Deschanel, can't forget her as well. My introduction to her.
A lot of people's, right? This was one of her first bigger roles.
I want to say it was one of her.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
So you saw it in the theater and you loved it.
Yeah, I'm going to take the stance of everyone who's watching just to argue with you on this, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I didn't really dig too deep into it. I was like, that was fun. I get it. And I kind of moved on. And every time it's on since then, I just go, fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the best version of this movie, is if you have fun with it. I think you have to have fun with it and try not to take it too serious. I guess seriously is not the right word to say, but
yeah, I get you.
I think there's a lot of good things here. I really do. I really do think there's a lot of good things here. And I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to start with how you generally feel about it and then get into some specifics?
Yeah, just a little general, because I mean, we're kind of beating around the bush here, but like when we talk about what the audience feels, like the movie is pretty universally beloved.
Yes.
One would say, considered sort of a modern Christmas classic, and I think it was considered that pretty much out of the gate. Like, it was tremendously successful. Will Ferrell was just kind of like about to crest. So he was really like on his way up this new guy taking over all the comedy stuff. And it was just like a perfect storm of timing, and people adore it to this day. My wife adores this film. I think everyone I've ever spoken to really likes this movie. I did not see it when it came out. I only saw it for the first time in the last couple of years, because as Will Ferrell was cresting, I was, at that time, we've talked about this before, so I won't bore you all with the details. I was kind of out. Like, I was a little, I was pushing back on that.
You
not because I don't love Will Ferrell.
Let's just call it what
What's
it was.
that?
You're anti-Will Ferrell. Let's just call it
I'm not.
it is.
I was anti all of the, I thought it was like, he was getting overpraised when he was coming out of Saturday Night Live. And I was it's a long story, you don't need to know. I was into Mad TV. I didn't like Saturday Night Live.
Dental school can cost up to $300,000. Then you've got the cost of office rental, all that equipment.
Come on, Tony, what's it gonna cost?
I was very like contrarian. You know, that's like what it was. It's like I don't need this.
I think
who's this guy everyone says is great.
I think the word you're looking for is insufferable.
Fair.
No.
Fair. So I was high in my on my insufferable horse. And so I was like, this guy's annoying. I don't like his bit. I'm not going to watch this movie. It's also a movie for kids when it came out when I was like 19, 20, and very much living a non-child friendly lifestyle. So it was not a high on my priority list. I finally got around to watching it because I think at the insistence and encouragement of my wife, who, as I mentioned, loves this movie a couple of years ago. And I was excited to sit down and watch it because of the hype and the build-up. And I love a good Christmas movie. You know, I like a holiday film about rediscovering yourself with the Christmas spirit and all that stuff.
Garbage.
Yeah. But I really didn't like it. I really didn't like it. And I think partially that's because I was set up to fail because it's been 20 years, or at that point 18 years of expectations. And I do agree there's a lot to like there. We'll get into the specifics of, there's a lot of stuff I like, a lot of moments I laugh. I agree completely that you just don't take it too seriously and you have a great time. But I do think that maybe we can start here. This movie to me is a perfect example, is the ideal example of what you always talk about. Something can be good and you can like something. And those aren't necessarily the same thing. Those things can just be individual. And so I think this movie is a great example of something that everyone really likes, but is bad. Like it's not a well-told story. And I know you're all mad, you're like, fuck you. Yeah, people getting really upset. I know. Who cares? At least you can call me whatever you want. At least I'm not someone who thinks Elf is good. Okay? You're insulting yourself.
Let's not insult our viewers this quickly.
No, I'm coming out hot. I'm defensive. I'm coming out hot. You idiots.
All right, I'll do my best, guys. I'll do my best.
Woo.
Ev, you fascist. I don't know.
Yeah. Shut it down. Pages of notes. Do you want to start with my biggest complaints, or do you want to sing some praises first? Or what do you want?
I guess, because you already said that the film is universally beloved, and it's like a holiday classic. It's a holiday staple. And I think the thing that really cemented it, as it cemented all of Will Ferrell's movies, especially in that early to mid 2000s, is how quotable this film is and became over the course of its lifespan.
I like to whisper too. Santa! Oh my God! Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Put that down.
There's so many quotes from this film. There's so many things that not apply, that's not the right word, but that people just use. Smiling's my favorite is like an everyday type of vernacular for a lot of people.
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
And I think how quotable Will Ferrell was universally through all his films, and this film as well, really catapulted it to its success and to its like familiarity. You get it, guys. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he had one good word, you guys. Don't pile on, all right? Yeah. He's doing good.
With how familiar people are with the film. So I think that's one of its strongest qualities given to Will Ferrell because of his performance, his delivery, and all that sort of stuff, generally speaking. So I think that's a big thing of why this is so well received. But
I think there's a lot of very funny moments, and I love the premise. I really enjoy the general premise. I like a great kind of Christmas story that's a little fantastical, that's a little wink and a nod at the parents that, this is imaginary, but we're addressing that. There's a rumor out there that Santa's not real and all that. And then you're using Christmas lore and kind of modernizing it. And I've always enjoyed that stuff. Like a peek behind the curtain at some fantastical, magical world that so many of us can relate to and have imagined throughout our childhoods, especially. It's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go, I want to get to your thing. Let's argue because I think people enjoy it.
No, we will. But I'll just say, like the beginning of the film and almost most of the first act, I think I enjoy. Like I think it sets itself up really well. It's like a great idea. Someone had a great idea here, Jon Favreau or whoever else was brainstorming this thing, and I think the execution falls apart. I think my biggest, I got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'll give you 3, and you tell me which one you want to get into. A is I don't really think this movie knows what its core theme is. I think it's messy and it loses it. I think it loses its way as it goes. I think James Caan, the father, I think has the most sudden and inexplicable change of heart that has ever taken place in one of these kinds of films. You can roll your eyes, but you talk all the time about character motivation and what led. He just out of nowhere. There is no instigating incident for him to just be like, you know what? Don't talk to my son like that.
Don't tell my kid what to do.
30 seconds of screen time before, he's like, oh, buddy, get out of here, you piece of shit. You ruined my career.
I don't care where you go. I don't care that you're an elf. I don't care that you're nuts. I don't care that you're my son. Get out of my life now.
And then he's just like, oh no, I changed my mind. But that happens off camera? It's poor. It's very poor storytelling. And that's the key moment of the film. And C is, why is Will Ferrell developmentally challenged? Like that is a very strange part, because it's not just that he's naive and a fish out of water. He's mentally 6 years old and he's supposed to be 30. Why is he why is he 30 in a classroom in the North Pole with 10-year-olds? Why is he, Dad, I want to hold hands and lick gumdrops and...
I thought maybe we could make gingerbread houses and eat cookie dough and go ice skating and maybe even hold hands.
And oh my goodness, and he's sitting on his lap. Do other grown elves do that? Does a 30-year-old elf sitting at home on Bob Newhart's lap? No, everyone looks at him like he's this overgrown man-child, and I think that's a weird choice. Those are three things. I have more.
Well, let's start with the last one first, because I think that's your Grinch. We should do the Grinch, because that's like that makes me feel like you just want to not like the film, because that, I would say, is why everyone does like the film. That choice, and it is a choice. It's part of what I do want to get into about then versus now, what I alluded to before. But that choice of how Will Ferrell chose to play the character, because I'm sure on the page it's not written that way. I'm like, I could almost guarantee that. I don't think it was written to be a child. I think that's Will Ferrell's interpretation of this character. And I think that's the way that he found it to be funny. If he played it, and I think that's the thing that people gravitate towards. So like, if you remove that from this film, let's say you're right, and you remove Will Ferrell acting like a child in an adult's world, then what is this film? Like, this film doesn't exist without that.
I disagree.
How,
the fish out of water is enough. You're a fish out of water, like you don't even know what the real world is, and now you're in New York, and all you've ever known is magical North Pole land. There's plenty of humor to be harvested from that situation of this guy who thinks everything is fucking gumdrops and rainbows and butterflies, and now he's in the real world, he's in New York. Some of that is here
Isn't that
anyway.
inherently childlike, to think everything's so wonderful and positive?
Sure. And I'm not even saying he shouldn't have done it, but then at least explain it to me. Explain to me why that is. Like, it's just sort of like the way he is, and because it's such a choice, it becomes a little distracting. Like, oh, is it never going to be addressed? At one point, one character says, oh, he's a man-child or something.
He's probably just reverting to a state of childlike dependency.
But it's not. It's like, okay, but why? Like, he is. It's it would be a problem. Like, the other elves all look at him, the other elves that appear to be his age, as like, this guy is a little nuts. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, but, I'm not saying it's rock solid. I'm not saying what I'm about to say is rock solid. I'm just saying, can't you explain some of it by saying he's a human that grew up raised by elves? If you were a child raised by wolves, so to speak, your behavior would be weird. It would be off if you.
Yeah, but his behavior's weird at the North Pole. He's weird by elf standards. And then it goes a step further, I think, allow me to expand, where because I don't know why he's like that, it makes it even more weird that an attractive single woman is just like, yes, like this guy is awesome. That's another trope that I don't like in a lot of these kind of movies. Billy Madison, movies where the main character is like such a moron.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, the beautiful woman is just like, this guy. Like, it takes me out of it another layer, because it's like, oh, he's clearly insane, and Zooey Deschanel is like, oh, he's sweet.
Yeah,
like that makes it weirder.
I guess I think Zooey Deschanel has a tough time playing a jerk. that's one of my criticisms, but we can get into that in a second. So it makes the turn from her trying to be like a curmudgeon who hates Christmas to like come all the way over to become like Mrs. Elf. You know, it's a far journey for her to get to, and he is the thing that motivates that change. And that I always sort of wonder, but that like she's supposed to fall in love with his like wonder and innocence. Like his childlike innocence is the thing that makes her sort of believe in Christmas and sing in front of the crowd and love Christmas trees that they're...
That's also stupid, by the way. But that's kind of hindsight silly, because we just know about Zoe. It feels very like fucking... just shoehorned in, like, we gotta let her sing.
Well, she's
and
a good singer, so...
Her affectation, and Zoe's gotta sing. It's also a stupid arc just for the character. It's like, oh, that's the arc? Like that, like, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I just think...
Why is there a shower at a department store? Who's showering in a department store job?
They turned off her hot water, Everett. She doesn't have any hot water.
There's a locker room? I worked at Kmart. We didn't have locker rooms. Like,
because you
does
worked
Macy's
at a
have a locker room?
Kmart. You worked at a shitty Kmart. It's not my fault. I shower at Whole Foods all the time.
It's a little redundant, like the shitty Kmart. Like it's in the name, Keith. That's why they're shut down.
I think you have, like, if you don't like the bit of him being a 6-year-old and sort of, he just never, because he didn't know his father, he just didn't grow up, I guess, like, because he's stuck in that sort of kid-like state, because he didn't know his family, he didn't have a normal childhood. If you can't sort of just wrap your arms around that, you're gonna hate this film, and it sounds like you do. But I think that's on you. It's not on the film.
It's on the film to explain to me why that's the case. Otherwise, he's just doing it. He's the only one doing it. Why is he doing that?
He wasn't any different from the other children.
Not too fast, buddy.
I mean, not really.
I guess it's fair, but I think it's too critical for this type of film. I guess that would be my argument.
If that was the film's only problem, we probably wouldn't be sitting here having this
I don't
argument.
remember other your dog shit problem.
Jimmy Caan, The Father's Turn.
Oh. I mean, yeah, everybody... Zoe, I think, makes a large leap to get from hating everything to get... And he takes a leap, too. But, it has to happen, right? It has to happen?
Sure. But it's like... That's my first criticism was this film doesn't really know what its theme is or what it's trying to accomplish, and I think that's a big part of it. Is because to me, that's sort of it, right? Is like he's got to soften the heart, use his Christmas spirit to soften his hard-hearted father. That's a different movie. His hard-hearted father, and that moment, right, should be Jimmy Caan turns, and that's what powers Santa's sleigh. Is Jimmy Caan is the final cog in Christmas spirit, and
he is.
Everything's good again. It kind of.
He's the last thing where he sings. And
I know, but he's begrudging. He's begrudging in that moment. Why was that choice made?
Because
Dad, you're not even singing. You're not even singing. I don't know. You're just moving your mouth.
Wait, you're not singing.
Yes, I am.
Why would he be like, this is your moment? Like, it's a weird choice.
That's contrast to what you literally just said. The problem is he turns too quickly for no reason. Doesn't that
because
show
he already
like
did that.
a
It's
progression?
It's not progression because he just does it. He's in the boardroom meeting, he kicks Buddy out. And like a minute and a half later, he's in the next meeting and pitching the book with the stolen notes from Peter Dinklage, and the other boy comes in and goes, Dad, and he goes like, get out of here. And it's just like, that, just in that scene.
We'll figure it out, okay?
Figure out what? Buddy cares about everybody. All you care about is yourself.
Hey, Michael.
He's done it. His wife goes like, you're hard on him. But there's no moment, we're never with Jimmy Caan for even 5 seconds to have him like staring in the mirror and like, oh man. Like it's just nothing. It's jarring. If I have one criticism, this is the worst one. Because that's your turn. That's the plot.
Now, if this were a drama, I would agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, I think he needs a very sobering moment, which he doesn't really have. But again, this is a lighthearted, family, kid-friendly film. I don't think they're going to spend too much time on
proper storytelling.
On that like really dramatic motivation where he hits rock bottom.
I don't need him cutting himself in the bathroom
his
and getting
son
emotional.
Just says, "Dad, what the fuck?" And it just kind of wakes him up. Again, I think you're choosing to dig your heels in where it'd be one thing. Hold on one second. It'd be one thing if it didn't happen at all. But there is something. To your first point, there really is no explanation of why Buddy acts and behaves the way that he does. He just is. You're right. That's hard to argue. He just is, and I think you have to accept it. In this, there is the moment where he has a moment with his own biological son, or his second biological son. He has that moment, and that motivates him for the change. Whether you like it or not, or you don't think it's enough, but it exists. Does it not? Does it not exist?
No, I feel like it doesn't exist.
Why?
I really don't
How?
feel like it exists. Because the kid just says it. Dad, you're an asshole. You only do what you want to. And then walks out. And then he goes, son. Like, it's just like that. There is nothing. So it's just like, from 1 second to another, he changes his mind. And this also plays, because the B-level criticism of that is, I think, the other son, the young kid, I think his turn is really unmotivated and rapid too. Where it's like, he's embarrassed, he's running from him in the street, and then they have the snowball fight, which, as an aside, is Buddy superhuman? Because that's another thing I would like to talk about.
Yeah. I dislike that part very much. I agree with that. I hate that.
I don't, because we'll come back to that, but because that scene is so fantastical, and I'm like, so he's a superhero, like, then that turn, because that is a stupid and unrealistic moment, the next scene is them as best friends running through the department store, and they're best friends. Because the moment that proved it to his brother that he's cool was stupid and unrealistic, his motivation feels stupid and unrealistic and unearned. So now the little boy just loves him because he's Superman, and that's a little bit like the dad later, where it's just like, it just happens, because it's supposed to, and so now it doesn't feel earned. So now none of this feels real, which is my other criticism, is because of that superhero nature. There are no stakes, and I know it's a comedy family film, but I have no idea what Buddy can and can't do, and sometimes he's basically, like I said, Superman.
Yeah,
and that's
that is one of the worst parts of the film. You did hit the nail on the head in this one specific thing. The fact that he's a human. That's the whole point. He is a human, and the fact that he moves faster than the speed of light with his arms, and that is a bridge too far. I understand him being able to. He has training in a way that he can craft things quickly. I can go there because he has that sort of training his whole life, small motor skills, working on toy building.
He's better at Christmas than anyone else.
Anybody. So when he trashes the living room or whatever and builds all that stuff, makes sense. When he does it in the department store, that makes sense. When his body physically moves too fast, he should not be able to do that. I would have much rather, and I thought about this on this last watch, exactly what you were saying. When he dives and throws that perfect sidearm or whatever, I much would have rathered him just have accuracy, precision, just sniping ability, just boop, 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 he doesn't miss.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can go there.
Yes.
And I think that would have, to your point, it does make everything else feel more organic and realistic, and you can start to buy this relationship. Because the whole point of the scene, to argue your first original point, is that they're in a tumultuous situation that this boy probably has faced before in his life. These guys are bad news. I'm familiar with this. And you save someone, quote, quote, from a situation, you inherently like that person. Like that makes sense to me that they would become friendly and bond over this, trials and tribulations that they went through. Like that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah, he just shouldn't be superhuman.
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
It is a very weird choice. Yeah.
And then to me, that's another thing that like amplifies the choice of him being the man-child, because it's just like, oh, there's just weird choices being made.
Yeah.
and none of them are explained. So then again, that one little detail that might not bother everybody else, that he acts so immaturely, is then a harsher light is being cast on it, because there's a lot of stuff happening here that I'm not really sure of.
Yeah.
He's basically just playing, it's like a dry run for the Stepbrothers character.
Yes.
Which is weird. It's like, you should have just done Stepbrothers. Like, that's just what you wanted. You just did it in a Christmas movie. Whatever his name is in Stepbrothers, I was trying to remember, but it's the same energy where you're like, oh, it's just, he thought this was really funny. So it's like, let's make a whole movie about it in real life.
And here's the thing, it'll give us so much extra space in our room to do activities.
Going into the movie versus watching it now, I wonder, I don't have an answer to this. I pose the question for you. I pose the question for you at home as well. When I saw this when I was 20, whatever, young 20s, I was very familiar with Will Ferrell from SNL. His whole bit is playing things so sarcastically, so over the top, but never winking to the camera, committing to that, but doing it so far over the top that it's sarcastic, it's satirical. Like that's his thing, taking everyday situations, putting them at 11, but never breaking. You're like, wow, this is just pure insanity because he's going to 11. All his characters from Saturday Night Live, a lot of them are like the Spartans are like that. Like so much of what, I don't need to list all his bits that he's done. But as I see Will Ferrell as an actor develop over years and years, 20 years later, I really do wonder to myself looking back, do you think this is Will Ferrell just acting? Like, do you think he is just performing, that he thinks he's, because this is right after Old School comes out, where he's the third lead in that film. Like, he is not the Will Ferrell that you know and love.
Yeah.
This is not something that you can, like, all that stuff is to come. So this is one of his first roles. This is, if not his first, like, leading role outside of maybe Night at the Roxbury. Like, that might have come first, if I remember.
Yeah, that came first, yeah.
So, like, this is a real big step for him. So then I go back and I go, do you think he's really playing this for laughs, or is he trying to deliver it as it was written, a fun, childlike wonder, and he just kind of is shitty and only knows how to do this? That's my question.
No, I mean, I'm sure this is his bit. I'm sure this is intentional.
So you think he knows that this is, because some of the performance, like when he goes like, that's shockingly low.
That's shocking.
When he's looking at the parents put it on, that whole conversation. If you look at it, is it just shitty? Like, there's a part of me that I can't get away from it, or there's a part of me that goes like, is he just shitty at this? And I hate to say it because I do love Will
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I know. It's a weird take coming from you.
Yeah.
No, I think he's just doing that very narrow bit. Like that's his thing, and he's leaning into it, I would guess.
I wish I could know. There's a part of me, there's a very small part of me that just thinks it. Anyway.
This goes with his silliness, but like just as another, what's he doing that for? Like, I understand he eats sugar, so he's putting sugar on everything. Sure. He starts eating it with his hands? Like the spaghetti and all the sugar? Like, is that what elves do? No. Like, it's just like in the moment, I assume that was all improvised.
Yes.
And he was like, this is funny, this is weird. And sure, it probably makes children laugh. So far be it for me to begrudge a child's joy. Those idiot children. I'm just like that, but that's another moment where I'm like, oh, okay, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie must be insufferable for someone who doesn't want to buy his character. I can imagine it being insufferable.
I just want a little explanation. That says like, oh, this he's doing this because maybe that could have been a funny bit too. That like elves are weird, right? Like elves have really weird culture, and so they do all these things just a little differently than humans do. But then you don't cast the great Bob Newhart, whose whole bit is just being like the most like tired everyman guy. He's just like, oh, no. Like Bob Newhart's incredible. Every scene he's in anything he's in,
yeah,
is
Bob
the best
Newhart's
part
great.
of that thing. He's so funny. But I mean, that's totally his shtick. He's like the opposite. He's like the normal guy. He's so relatably normal, and he's just like quietly exasperated about daily life. Like, so it's like, no, you picked the most normal, relatable guy ever to be his dad in Elfland. So where did he learn to be this nutty? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Love Bob Newhart. Can't say it enough. Lastly, for me, in terms of complaints, and then we'll say funny lines, and everyone can love this episode. I'd say the ending, the climax, is where it also supports, to me, my view that this movie doesn't know what it's about, because like the Central Park Rangers.
Only the Central Park Rangers now remain in the park. These horses are highly trained, but rarely see action.
The horsemen that show up to be like kind of the primary adversary at the end, I don't really know what like it's almost, you're not quite jumped the shark, but you're almost there. Like, okay, so there's these evil horsemen who in any kind of reality, we would believe these are just police officers or security officers of some kind for the park, but they're like evil and want to get rid of Santa, like chase him, stop him. It's not really explained, obviously. Like we talk about in like superhero films, especially, or any, action epics, like not introducing a character at the very end who's the villain. Like, why would you do that? Like, that's not like the ending. The climax of your film needs to either literally or metaphorically be overcoming this long-standing threat or antagonist. And now the horsemen are just kind of there, and that's the thing that's gonna keep Santa from achieving his goals and all this shit. And so it really doesn't mean anything to me. It's just, oh, these horse guys are chasing the sleigh, but they're humans too, right? Like,
yeah,
those guys are humans.
Yeah, it's just, yes, you are very unforgiving, but you're not wrong. Technically, you're not wrong. But the very, very simple premise is these are park rangers that have had questionable behavior in the past. They're rough and tough. They take no prisoners, and they're out to get whoever is in the park. I think they don't, like, the general population doesn't believe in Santa. So they're like, someone's messing around the park after hours. We got to get them out of here. I don't think they think it's Santa. I think they're just trying to clear the park because that's their job.
What about once they're chasing the sleigh for 10 minutes that's flown by reindeers just 30 yards in front of them, up and down off the ground?
If you want to dig into it, yes. To your point, I think this really could have been cleared up. And this, for me, all I would need in this situation is if they're in the park during the snowball in the beginning of the second act, they're doing the snowball fight. If the buddy's brother or whatever, the second kid is like, buddy, we got to get out of the park. The Rangers are coming soon. Like, we can't stay here too long.
100%. Introduce that threat early.
These things are. I get it. I can meet you there, but it does make enough sense for me. I can just go along with it. These are bad people for the sake of being bad.
Yeah, but I think that's a little selective of you, my dear friend, Mr. Macri.
Yes.
I'm going to remember this moment in future episodes where I go like, oh yeah, what do you mean? He's like the queen, the evil queen in Willow. She's an evil queen. Why do you need explanation?
Well, but because
she's bad for the sake of being bad.
They are not, the evil queen is the main antagonist. These people are sort of just a throwaway at the end of the film, which you could say is just shitty in general.
It's a problem.
Because there is no, the conflict in the film is not outward, it's inward. It's the love of a father to a son. It's Buddy trying to get his father to love him and accept him. That's the conflict of the film, not the fucking horseman trying to defeat Santa. That's just a little high-level tension that propels the climax of the film.
If only Buddy had known that he could have just solved the climax of his father not loving him by just saying it enough times in the right boardroom, and his dad would just change his mind really suddenly. So that was really great. The other part of that ending that I think is more Like, I know you can be sitting there at home and being like, he's just being overly critical of this fun thing that people are just supposed to love and be happy about Christmas.
I can't wait to read the comments of people just saying,
I don't
that.
get it.
You piece of shit, you hate Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a fun
You're an
film,
idiot,
just
you're
let
a hack.
it go.
Great. I'm correct on this. I'm sorry. Because the other part, like, you can't just be like, it's for kids. And I like it. So who cares about storytelling? Like, that's not how this works. For you first-timers who just shut up. The other part of the end that I think is really stupid is the threat that is introduced in addition to the horsemen, the random 4 horsemen, is we can't let people see us.
Christmas spirit is about believing, not seeing. The whole world saw me, all would be lost. The paparazzi have been trying to nail me for years.
The paparazzi's been trying to get me for years. And if everyone in the world knows I'm real, all of this is for naught. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna fucking do a flyby over a couple hundred people and a live newscast over downtown Manhattan, and then fly through the buildings on the way out. Okay, so nothing matters.
Well, there's
nothing. 3 minutes ago, you told me that would be the end of Christmas. The end of Christmas, Keith.
The whole world saw me, all would be lost.
If all of Christmas spirit will disappear if we know, and we're not just taking it on faith.
Yeah, listen, the thing I will agree, like, that's just how it manifested. I can buy it. I can buy that the cameras didn't catch it and not everybody saw. Like, I'm fine with the, the evil horsemen that are trying to kill him, whatever. I'm fine with it.
They could have reached up and touched Rudolph's foot.
I thought you were going to say a different body part.
Yeah, well, that was hitting him in the face.
Oh, God. Oh, Rudolph.
Oh.
Come on, we've all been there.
It's not the only thing with a red tip.
All right, you know what?
All right, we're cutting it. That's for Patreon.
Stay for these types of jokes, Patreon. No, what I can agree with you on is that these things, the introducing the villain or a villain, a threat, and if someone finds out Santa's real, if the world finds out that Christmas is shut down, like that level of conflict that's introduced so far at the end, to give this movie weight and stakes, if we're gonna hang our hat on that at the end for this to matter, it does need to be mentioned in the beginning in some capacity. You can't just pull out a gun all of a sudden and be like, you had a gun this whole time? Like that, I agree with that in terms of writing. Those things, if they were gonna mean anything at the end, needed to be mentioned in the beginning when they're in the before Eddie leaves on Buddy leaves on his journey. Like he's got, there's gotta be something like, oh, the paparazzi's after me. Like what? Like that stuff needs to be set up there so that when we get to the final thing, it's like, oh shit, people are gonna see him. That's gonna ruin Christmas. So I agree 100% with that part.
Yeah, like you don't even need the horsemen. Like let the threat be the public is coming and they're gonna see Santa and he's gotta get out of there fast.
Yeah.
Like and James Caan learning the meaning of Christmas is what helps power him to get away.
Yeah.
Boom.
Trying to
that's your story. That's an arc.
Yeah. No, I yes. It's not expertly written. It's not. I can't sit here and defend like this is a really well written story. It's not. It's not.
It's such a great idea with so many funny moments, and it's like almost there. Like, and when I say that, I mean like for me, it's almost you have all the ingredients to be a holiday classic. It's just like I know this isn't the case, and I'm sorry that this is insulting to someone like Jon Favreau and other people. Jon Favreau, I really like a lot. Like he does a lot of great stuff. But it's just like we kind of ran out of steam halfway through and just stopped caring about basics. Like it's just really great as he gets all the way up to him getting to New York and starting the job and then it's just like, oh, now things actually have to mean something for the story to make sense.
Yeah.
And that we're not really we're less interested in that part.
This film, I will use a scene in this film as an example of what I think happens in these types of films and films made by big studios across the land. The scene where it's right in the beginning of the movie where one of the assistants, I forget who it does, presents James Caan the children's book. They said there's 2 pages missing.
2 whole pages are missing. The story doesn't make any sense.
What, you think some kid's gonna notice 2 pages?
And then, what should we do? And they go, print it. You think kids are gonna know about the 2 pages that are missing from a duck and an eagle or whatever he says? Just print it.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose money. I don't care. That no one's gonna notice. And I think that's really telling to how big executives and how studios think. Because if creatives, film, screenwriters, directors, I bet on their own would think of these things that we're talking about. But I'm sure the pressure to deliver a film and having so many different opinions floating in your way, and you're just like, you gotta concede somewhere, like we gotta get the film done.
Yeah.
I can see where
Do you think that's like a wink and a nod? Do you think that was an intentional
maybe
reference?
Maybe.
That'd be funny.
That would be funny.
That'd be funny.
2 little notes about the film that I thought were interesting. One, similar to what we were just talking about, how execs, studio heads try and mess everything up for actual filmmakers. This movie was in production when Old School came out. So Old School is a smashing success. Will Ferrell's character is a smashing success. People love Will Ferrell. In that vein, this movie is, I think, had wrapped at that point, but they were starting in the middle of the edit. So there is the studio said, make this film more like Old School because that's what people want. So they recut and tested more of an adult or gross humor sort of thing. I think maybe that's where some of that belching stuff came from. I think maybe that's where the stuffing his face, maybe some of those elements came from, where they leaned into that a little bit more. And then that film did not screen very well. So I think they sort of met in the middle. I think they started to come back because I think maybe Favreau or the writer, I remember reading that they were very passionate about the film that they originally started. So I just think it's interesting of how they're like, oh, no, this is successful. Just make it more like this. Well, that's not the movie we were telling. That's not what we were doing at all. Now we need to figure that out.
Yeah. So. It is funny to take a family Christmas film and be like, make it like Old School.
Yeah, like oil and vinegar here. Like, what are we doing? Also, another interesting note, I think from what I've read, that Will Ferrell and Jon Favreau famously did not get along during this.
I read that too, yeah.
That they didn't see eye to eye, they didn't like each other's style or whatever the case may be.
Will Ferrell and the director, Jon Favreau, didn't get along too well during the production of the first film.
Yeah, we was gonna beat Will's ass. Will was acting like a little bitch.
So it was not a fun experience for Will Ferrell, and that's why he's never done a sequel. I'm sure he's been offered a ton of money to do it.
Yeah.
I remember watching Spirited, which, did you ever watch Spirited?
We turned it off.
Smart decision. That movie is garbage. But if you stuck through it, there is a moment in that film where Will Ferrell is walking through a party, a Christmas party, a holiday party, and someone is dressed as the elf character.
Are you okay?
He's fine, so yeah. He looks stupid.
Okay, you look stupid.
And I think that's very fun and very telling to see how much Will Ferrell probably hates this film and hates how much probably attention he gets for a film he does not like. I think that's just.
You think he doesn't like the film?
Well, he probably doesn't have fond memories of it. He probably, if you're known for the one thing that not one thing, but if rabid fans are always like, do the elf thing, and you're like, I don't like that, or I didn't have a good time with that. I feel like that's a very telling statement for him to put in that film, to be like, shut the fuck up, guys. This isn't that great.
Yeah.
Maybe that's me reading between the lines a little bit, but that's an active choice. You don't put that in the film.
Yeah. If you love it.
If you love it. There's more to it than just a funny joke. So, interesting.
All right. So we'll get a little positivity to round this thing out, maybe. So
sure.
I'm sorry.
Make you wait for the
mad
good
at
stuff.
Keith. He didn't do a good enough job defending it for you guys.
I don't know, you shit.
My favorite part of the movie is Matt Walsh's little cameo, where he's being interviewed by the news lady at the end, and he's just like, oh, you're so fantastic. You're such a fantastic news lady. Your eyes, you tell the story, which is really important. You got a great mouth. He's just doing great.
Your eyes tell the story. That's what I love about you. You got a great mouth.
So that's really funny because of who Matt Walsh went on to become and had such a hilarious career. His presence is made even better by the fact that in the end credits, he's credited as himself Says Matt Walsh himself.
That's funny.
I think that is very funny.
That's very funny.
That is
very funny. That's very funny.
Beyond just Matt Walsh's cameo, I do think a lot of the stuff it makes you laugh. Like I said, the fish out of water stuff is almost all really good. My favorite moment might be when he sprays the perfume in his mouth.
Fruit spray? Sure.
He does that same kind of bit like 5 times where he just yells in reaction to something, which is, I know it's kind of his thing. That moment is the best of it for me. What are your favorite funny parts?
I really, Will Ferrell, I think is obviously funny. And his blissful ignorance I think is funny. So I always try and find other things to like latch on to. And I really enjoy Faizon Love. He's a small
funny
part,
too.
but I think he really gives it like a very good performance on that type of character, that overbearing, insecure boss type vibe. I love saying 6 inches. 6 inches.
Impossible.
6 inches.
Like, I just love the way that he does it. And he does a lot of like cold stares. Like, he is a good foil, I think, to Will Ferrell when he's insane. Like, he is just like, I don't have time for this shit. And he really says it in his face very clearly and very well. I think the two of them work well together in this film. And unfortunately, they're only such a small, part together.
Yeah. Faizon Love is usually pretty damn good.
But he's funny. I think he does a really good job. Underrated, I think, in the film.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It is, where do you put, I mean, I know the answer to this, but I love doing top 10, top 20, top 50. In terms of like Christmas movies, is this a top 10 Christmas movie? Can you put your personal differences aside to give this a top 10? Because I think most people have this in their top 10.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people have it as 1, and I know a lot of critics that have it as the best Christmas movie of this generation or this century so far. And yeah, I can't. I just can't. I don't know off the top of my head which Christmas films are better. I don't remember the last time I saw like a new Christmas movie that was really great off the top of my head, other than Eyes Wide Shut, and that was like 25 years ago. So
screams holiday magic.
it's a Christmas film. It's wonderful. I want to do it next year, baby. You heard it here first. So no, I wouldn't put it on my it would be as low as there were Christmas movies of this century. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess I didn't finish Spirited, but
that movie's ass. Sorry, that movie sucks. That movie sucks.
Elf would just have to be a cohesive story. Like, it's funny enough, it's enjoyable enough. I don't hold it against people who love it because everyone loves it. So it's awesome. I'm happy, genuinely, that a movie like this exists that brings people so much happiness. I just drove to the grocery store. At the end of my block, there's someone on the front lawn with a life-sized Buddy the Elf, Will Ferrell, like blow-up, lit-up thing. Like, it's a huge thing, and that's great. I'm not Scrooge.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's end with that, because the fact that we can all embrace this, I think, is just a good thing, because there's so many things that we all can embrace. So it's such a good thing. It's never a bad thing to have something that is like universally loved and enjoyed, that is such a positive film. So let's just say thank you for that.
Even when it's awful.
If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
Oh, that was the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life.